Good Monday morning. Thank you for joining us on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Jason Hackett. Let's get right to your headlines. Right now, the man accused of holding authorities in an hours-long standoff in Isanti is facing a judge for the first time. This comes as officials announced more than 24 charges against Jason Michael Phillips, including first-degree attempted murder, assault, and neglect of a child. Those charges stemming from the incident on Cedar Street last Wednesday. Police say Phillips fired shots at authorities multiple times, hitting nearby homes, all while his wife and their 5 children were inside of the house. They all eventually got out the home safely. SWAT teams from multiple agencies evacuated neighbors and tried negotiating with the suspect. Authorities say the suspect then fired at armored vehicles during those efforts. One of those bullets nearly hitting a neighbor's child inside of a house nearby. Police say after 6.5 hours, an Anoka County SWAT member shot at Phillips and took him into custody. This morning, authorities are investigating a crash on I-94 overnight that left 1 person dead. This is a video our crew got from the scene at around 10 o'clock last night on 94 near Olson Memorial Highway. State Patrol says an 18-year-old struck the lane divider in the exit and was out of his vehicle when he was hit by another car. The 2 people inside that car were not hurt. The crash forcing the eastbound lanes to shut down for hours. We're told alcohol is not a factor here. Meanwhile, a woman is fighting for her life after a car hit her while on her bike in Golden Valley. This happened in the intersection of Theodore Wirth Parkway and Highway 55. Officials say they don't believe alcohol played a role in this crash. Authorities right now are working to determine what led up to the incident. Tomorrow, Minnesotans will head to the polls for the primary election. Early voting resumes this morning before voters get their final say. And one of the biggest decisions they'll make is who's going to be on the ballot to take over Minnesota's top job. Audrey Russo has a preview of the race for governor.
Yeah, early voting has been going on in Minnesota. The polls officially open tomorrow at 7 o'clock. And in this race for governor, U.S. Senator Amy Klobuchar is considered the front runner on the DFL side. She faces no serious challenger from that side of the aisle. Take a look at this video. This is her from last week at Farm Fest, engaged in essentially a 3-on-1 debate with the GOP hopefuls. Now, the 3 Republicans vying for the GOP spot on November's ballot are Kendall Qualls, who earned the party's endorsement ahead of the primaries, Mike Lindell, who's endorsed by President Trump, and Lisa Damuth, the current Minnesota House Speaker. Now, because Klobuchar is considered the presumptive nominee on the DFL side, she's really had a head start in her messaging for the general election. Meanwhile, the 3 GOP contenders have really had to tailor their message to the party, as all 3 of them are hoping to be facing Klobuchar come November. Back to you.
Audrey, thank you. All eyes are also on who will get the Democratic nomination for Senate here in Minnesota. Right now, it's Congresswoman Angie Craig versus Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan. A big highlight of this primary race centers on fraud. Craig has consistently pointed out the Medicare fraud that happened on the Walz-Flanagan administration's watch. She argues that putting Flanagan on the DFL ticket will hurt the chances of that Senate seat remaining blue. Flanagan, meanwhile, has the party's endorsement and argues Craig votes too frequently with Republicans. And speaking of the GOP, Michelle Tafoya is vying to be the Republican on the ticket in November. The former broadcaster is facing off against former Navy SEAL Adam Schwarzy. Schwarzy has the Republican endorsement, but Tafoya is leading in the polls. If you still have questions about the candidates and the races, we have a full voter's guide to help you prepare. You can find all of that at kare11.com/vote. Well, right now, the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office is investigating the drowning death of a 5-year-old at Lake Minnetonka Regional Park. This all happened Saturday afternoon. Deputies say someone saw the child in the water. Lifeguards pulled the child out and performed CPR until an ambulance brought them to the hospital, but unfortunately that child died. The Sheriff's Office says they are heartbroken for the child's family and loved ones. Also this morning, several people are out of their home in Minneapolis after a fire ripped through an apartment building. This happened around 10 a.m. yesterday on Portland Avenue near 10th Street. Firefighters say smoke and flames were coming from the 3rd floor, and several people had to be evacuated. No one in the building was hurt, but a firefighter was sent to the hospital. The Red Cross is now helping those from the 4 units damaged by that fire. In just 2 days, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey will release his budget proposal for next year. But those familiar with it say the plan could mean bad news for people in the city. So here's what we know so far. The mayor's plan reportedly includes big cuts to department budgets and major staff layoffs. Experts say that still won't make up for the $33 million budget shortfall facing the city. brought on by new worker contracts, police overtime, and a big drop in commercial property values. So to help here, the mayor is reportedly considering an 11 to 13% increase in property taxes.
I think we're looking at a higher figure, somewhere in the low teens, for property taxes for homeowners, unless the council and the mayor decide to make significant cuts beyond what he's proposing.
We have reached out to the mayor's office and we're told he is still making final decisions. Right now, officials say more entry points in the Boundary Waters will open by the end of the week. According to the U.S. Forest Service, more than 1,500 of the BWCA's 2,000 campsites will be open, including 5 entry points near Big Moose and Big Lake. Forest officials say several fires are still active, so campfires are banned for right now. This morning, Iran is laying out tough terms for reopening the Strait of Hormuz, despite hopes an agreement with Oman was close to get traffic safely flowing through the critical shipping channel. NBC's Alice Barr has the very latest from Washington.
Growing uncertainty this morning over the Strait of Hormuz and its central role in ending the war with Iran. Iran's top diplomat said there are no negotiations right now with the U.S. after Tehran listed a series of demands through state media for reopening the strait to shipping traffic, including a permanent end to the war and no further threats to Iran, an end to the U.S. blockade and withdrawal of all American military, and that the U.S. lift sanctions and pay back assets to Iran. Vice President J.D. Vance said the administration is applying pressure.
We're in the middle of a game and we're applying a whole host of tools, diplomatic, economic, military tools.
President Trump, who has repeatedly insisted the war is nearly over, told Axios in a new phone interview his administration is, quote, low-keying it with Iran and only semi-negotiating, while emphasizing economic pressure on Iran. Democrats slamming the president's approach.
Donald Trump has lost this war. America is weaker. Iran is stronger. The price to reopen the strait increases by the day.
The administration rejects that, with the vice president saying there's been some progress in recent days.
We're trying to maximize the amount of oil and gas that are coming out of the Strait of Hormuz.
All as the broader push for peace in the region hit a serious snag, with Israel rejecting President Trump's peace plan for Gaza that includes Israeli troops withdrawing while Hamas disarms. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, though, told his cabinet Israeli forces are not leaving until after Hamas completely disarms, a red line for Hamas.
Prime Minister Netanyahu also reasserted that as long as he is prime minister, there will be no Palestinian state, while Hamas has said that until one is established, it won't lay down its heavy weapons. All of it threatening to reignite tensions with President Trump, who considers the Gaza deal a key achievement. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
Well, nearly 30 years after Tupac Shakur was gunned down in Las Vegas, the only man ever charged in his murder is heading to trial today. This morning, jury selection is set to start for Dwayne Davis, who's accused of orchestrating the rapper's murder. He was arrested in 2023 and has pleaded not guilty. Much of their case comes from Davis himself, who has described his role in the killing in interviews, documentaries, and a memoir. His defense attorneys say those claims were made for fame and money. This morning, the CDC says the cyclospora outbreak has spread to 6 more states, bringing the total to 15 in the U.S. More than 6,000 cases have been reported, with hundreds of people hospitalized. Last week, Michigan health officials confirmed 2 people died after catching the parasite. Both also had severe underlying health conditions. Well, trending this morning, talk about a jackpot hiding in plain sight. A box of old Nintendo games found in Wisconsin could be worth millions. So take a look at this. The seller says he found nearly 100 copies of an unreleased version of Super Mario Bros. And Duck Hunt, all inside an old storage box in Waukesha. The seller says Nintendo sent the games to a metal recovery service to be melted down for gold, but they were never destroyed.
These were printed about 2 years after the last known printing of these games. So no one really understands fully why Nintendo made a box of 100 of these. This is one of the most documented games in the history of video game preservation, and nobody has ever seen these specific carts before.
That is amazing. So 3 of the cartridges will head to auction later this month and could be worth millions. In this morning's Communities at KARE, we're highlighting a pretty special moment at Target Field during the Savannah Bananas Loco Beach Coconuts series. Coconuts player Jordan Brewer suffered a left knee cartilage tear 6 years ago. He ended up receiving a transplant from Minnesota native Benjamin Anderson, who died around that same time. The donation giving Brewer a second chance at his baseball career. And yesterday, with the help of LifeSource, an organ donation company, Brewer finally got to meet Ben's family in person. That emotional meeting captured in this video before Game 3 against the Bananas. And before Brewer went up to bat, he brought Ben's family onto the field for a very special moment in front of over 39,000 fans. Also, this is super special. That red shirt you see Brewer wearing right there, that red jersey, was actually Ben's college baseball jersey. In an Instagram post, Brewer wrote a touching tribute, telling Ben's family, quote, "I promise to honor his gift, his memory, and the life he gave me for the rest of mine." What a beautiful moment there. Stick with us. More news and weather coming up right after the break.